All right, let's dive into something that's on a lot of people's minds right now. You're building these incredible generative AI workloads on AWS, but how in the world do you actually govern and audit them? Let's break it down.
So, picture this. Your team is just crushing it, right? They're innovating at lightning speed, spinning up all these amazing new AI apps, and it's super exciting. But you've got that little voice in the back of your head asking, is all this speed creating a chaotic, unsecure, and super expensive mess? Look, if you're even a little bit worried about keeping control of it all, you are in exactly the right place. And that right there, that feeling, that brings us to what's called the GenAI Governance Gap. Think of it as this chasm, really. It's the huge and, frankly, often ignored space between that, hey, this is a cool experiment phase, and actually deploying a secure, compliant application out into the real world.
So when we say unmanaged, what are we really talking about? Well, it's when you've got different teams using a mishmash of models. Maybe they're embedding API keys straight into their code, yikes, and you have zero visibility into what any of this is costing. This isn't just messy, folks. It's a one-way ticket to some serious security risks and major compliance headaches down the road.
Okay, so how do we bridge that gap? How do we get control back? Well, we're going to bring in two key AWS services. And honestly, I love thinking of them as the perfect investigative team for your cloud. You've got the detective, the one who's on the ground following every clue, and the architect, the one making sure everything is built according to the master plan. And really, any good investigation, any audit, boils down to answering four fundamental questions. To make sense of anything that happens in your environment, you have to know who made the change, when did it happen, which exact resource was changed, and the big one, what about it is different now?
And here's where our dynamic duo comes into play. AWS CloudTrail, that's our detective. It's basically the event log, an unchangeable record of every single API call. It's going to tell you the who, the when, and the which resource. Then you've got AWS Config, our architect. It's taking snapshots of your configurations, answering that final crucial piece of the puzzle. What has changed? So see, one tracks the action, the other tracks the state. They're a perfect pair.
Okay, so that's the theory. It sounds good, right? But let's get practical. How does this actually play out in the real world when we're talking specifically about our GenAI workloads?
This is where CloudTrail becomes absolutely essential for AI governance. See, by default, a service like Amazon Bedrock doesn't store your prompts or the model's responses, and that's fantastic for privacy. But for compliance and security, you have to have that audit trail. So what do? You enable CloudTrail data events. It gives you the best of both worlds, a complete, unchangeable record of every single API call made to your models, but without having to store any of that sensitive data inside the service itself. It's a huge win. So let's walk through it. It's super simple. A user types a prompt into your app. Your app then calls the Amazon Bedrock API, which kicks off an event, something like retrieve and generate. Instantly, CloudTrail logs it, who did it, when they did it, where they did it from, and stores that record securely. That log, that's now your rock-solid proof for any audit or security investigation that comes up.
So while our detective, CloudTrail, is busy logging every single action, don't forget about our architect, AWS Config. It's working right there alongside it. It's constantly taking snapshots of your AI infrastructure's configuration. We're talking about things like your SageMaker domains, your network settings, and checking to make sure nothing is drifted away from the security policies you've set up.
Now, obviously, you can't have someone sitting there manually checking all these logs and configs all day. It just doesn't scale. So the real game changer here, the crucial next step, is moving away from that reactive, manual checking to a proactive, automated, continuous audit framework. And the engine that drives all this automation? It's AWS Config rules. The easiest way to think about these is just your company's policies, but written as code. You can use rules that are already built, or you can write your own. For instance, you could have a rule that says, all our SageMaker Studio domains must be deployed inside our private VPC to block any public internet access. The second a resource drifts from that rule, bam, it gets flagged instantly.
Okay, this is where it gets really cool. When you start integrating these native services together, you're not just auditing anymore. You're actually building a fully automated compliance engine. And that's where another service, AWS Audit Manager, enters the picture. It basically uses all that great data from AWS Config and does all the heavy lifting for you.
And here's how that whole process works. Your config rules are running 24/7, evaluating your resources. Audit Manager plugs right into that, using those rules as its data source. It then automatically pulls in all the compliance data, maps it to the controls for big frameworks like ISO or HIPAA, and just generates the evidence reports. Seriously, the days of frantically scrambling for screenshots right before an audit, they're over.
All right, let's zoom out and bring it all together. Why are we even talking about this? Why go through all the trouble of setting up detectives and architects in your cloud? It's simple, really. Because this is the absolute foundation for building AI that your company, and more importantly, your customers, can actually trust.
So, what's the payoff for doing all this? You get 4 huge business benefits. First, you get deep observability. That means you understand why something happened, not just that it happened. Second, you get that bulletproof, tamper-proof trail for any security investigation. Third, you can prove compliance almost on autopilot, which frees up your team to do, more important work. And all of that ladders up to the biggest win of all. You build real trust because you can demonstrate that your AI is secure, compliant, and being managed responsibly.
Look, at the end of the day, the tools to properly govern your AI are right there, waiting for you. They let you shift from being chaotic and reactive to being in control, auditable, and automated. So really, there's only one question left. Are you ready to use them to build that trust?